Hi, this is Bill with Burromax Mini Bikes. We're here in the shop today to do some how-to videos and hopefully get you some good instruction on some of the problems or issues and maintenance things that come up with the TT Mini Bikes. This is a video about replacing the controller. We're replacing the controller in a TT750R, but it's the same in a TT350R. The toolkit comes with all the tools to do this, but it's so much easier if you've got a few tools of your own. Remove the bolts of the seat. Remove 4 screws for the body. $10mm socket, 8mm wrench. Take these 2 bolts out. The bolt has a sleeve on it. Comes in from the other side. Gotta pay attention to that. Where you got all your wires up here. Disconnect our headlight wire. Our throttle plug. You just push down on the clip and pull it apart. So here's our wires. You have 4 bolts in the bottom. Make sure your motor's unplugged. The battery box sits right out. Move our battery. Your battery plug. Now we're going to take our battery box, our battery plate out. Just kind of fish it out like that. Take 2 screws out. And you have 1 small one here. On the new bikes, you have this small one up here to take out as well. It comes in half. This is our high-low speed switch. Disconnect it. Your ignition switch. Disconnect it. The factory hot glues these in place. We're going to drill a hole and put a little wire tie on it when we put it back. Your charger port wire. And on a 750, these wires go nowhere. It's the same wires on a 350, but these are tucked in here on a 750. These are 36 volt controllers. 350s are 24 volt. The 24 volt, this you can hook the lights to it and USB plug, stuff like that. So we got another screw right down in here. Pull that dude out. And now there's a pin down here. See that plastic pin right there? Controller slides off of it. Slides off in your hand. And there's our controller. We're going to reuse this piece on the new controller. Okay, so we got our new controller. You should take and sort the wires out, straighten them up a little bit. This is our wire, the yellow and black with the 2 ends on it. We're not going to use this wire on a 750. On a 350, you would be using it, and then it would go out the top of the box. We got all these. Just kind of sort them out a little bit, make sure they're all free. We've got this wire, we've got to put our little sheath back on it. Run this little guy to the end. So we got one of our wires crossed up here. Get it just sorted out a little bit. Makes a nice job. Makes it easier. Run that up to there. This is kind of a pain, but it's not too terrible bad. Get it started on there. Just kind of thumb these in all the way down through there. Small Allen wrench, and makes it easier. You got something that'll, I use an Allen wrench, small one. Kind of helps just work that wire down through there. There. That's our taillight wire. Our high-low speed wire. Our ignition switch wire. Those will all come underneath everything here. This wire here we're going to fold up and put a wire tie on it and tie it out of our way here in a second. If you don't have a wire tie, tape it together, do something, just get it together and out of your way. So, okay, so we're going to set our controller up. We got our 3 wires here. Our low speed, our ignition, and our charging port wire. And we got wires are going out the top, just like this. Plug in our, if you have dielectric grease, now's the time to use it. Put just a little bit on the end of the plug. There's our charger wire. Here's our wires we're not going to be using. Push that down in there behind it. Charger wires down in there. Let's get set our controller on this pin right here. That's where that hole goes. Pops down in place. Put our Phillips screw back in the top. Now, these wires are going to go out the top, so let's lay them up there. This is our battery wire, and this is our power wire to our motor. Our power wire to the motor's got to go right here along this top shelf. And it's important, I always bring it down, bend it right there, and then lay it through my rubber here and get it out. We got to do, you can't just leave it laying like this, because usually you put the battery in, it gets underneath the battery and can pull it out of the controller. The battery won't go in all the way, so we got to anchor it. You can put a piece of tape over here, or you can I always put 2 holes here and put 2 wire ties in myself. You can do this by using an awl. And just pushing it right through the plastic. Make sure you don't tear up nothing on the other side. A hole. This is the one that gets in behind the battery if you leave it loose.
That was the one hot glued in, right?
This is the one that was hot glued in from the factory. Alright, so now we got our wires in there. We're going to take and set these guys out the top. Your throttle plug wire can just make sure you kind of squeeze it down a little. Just set it right over the end, bring it right out the top like that. Pull these wires back, have a little, it's important that the sheath come back a little bit. And it's like this. It's not so important on the throttle wire, but it is important on these because your gauge wires have to make it to the gauge. Put that little guy right down in there. This one comes over the top. Put a little grease on it. A little grease on it. You slide them together. If they won't slide right together, then if it won't go together, it could be that one of your terminals inside is not straight. You might have to go inside, use something small, and just bend it over a little bit to where they're lined up properly. And then it should just slip right together. You want to make sure it comes all the way together and locks. Make sure none of your wires are sticking out. Everything's in good and solid. These go right in the top shelf there as well. The wires sticking out here. So your little plastic halves back together. No pain. Put your 3 screws back in. On the newer models, it has this one here in the plastic right here. Okay. Now we want to put our battery plate back in. So pull your power wire up out of the way. Fish that little guy. Goes right in just like that. Line it up here in the bottom. Pull it up there. It's easiest to put the battery in now. Just put a little lube on the wires there. You're going to get a spark when they go together. Hear that snap? Push it in, make sure that locked in place. Slide your battery in. And then take your power wire and just stick it up in the top there like that. Now we're going to put our battery strap back in. Okay, put our little side cover back on. And our battery box is pretty much ready to stow back in the hole. You don't want to over tighten any of these screws. You are working in plastic, and it's not like it's under a lot of load or anything. Alright, so this one, a little steel bushing stayed in the rubber. This one came out with the bolt, which we have right here. Make sure you got those on there. Set your battery box back up in there. Go ahead and put a little lube on your, if you got it. If you don't, they come out of the factory without it. It helps a little on water resistance and corrosion. So it keeps a good connection through the life of this unit. Put that in, make sure you get it locked in place real good. There it clicked there. So our back one had this metal bushing in it. Push the bolt through. The front one. It came out a little higher. Push that in. We'll just start the nuts. We got to put our screws in the bottom, so we don't want to tighten these up just yet. Now, the bottom here, you got to line your bolt holes up. With the battery in place, it's pretty easy. Get our 10mm socket and our 8mm wrench again. You don't want to over tighten these too much. Just bring them up till like that. It's only holding a little plastic box in side to side. So you don't want a lot of threads showing. Just a few threads on the end is all you need. So now we want to set our wires up. You always want to do this job with your handlebars to the right. We got to kind of thread our wiring through here, and we want to tailor it a little bit. There's our taillight wire. This one has a lengthy headlight wire on it. Our throttle plug and our brake light plug. So we're going to put a little grease on them right here. You don't need much, just a little. And I always put it on the female sides, like this. So our throttle plug locks in. All our wires are seated in the plug well. Nothing sticking out. Our brake light wire should slip in. Make sure your locks are locked in place. Our headlight wire, once again, make sure it's all locked in place. Put a little wire tie right here at the front, like that. You gotta keep up with your gauge wires. Those things, you don't want to get them wire tied to the back or anything. You gotta be up here in the front. There you go. So these wires will be up here, and you can pull them up here like that. You need them right about there is where they need to go. You don't want to over tighten these wires either, because it'll pull wires out of the plugs. Make sure your front end's turned to the right, like I said, because that's where it's going to pull the long farthest. Generally 3 wire ties over here is enough. But this one's got an extra long headlight wire on it, so we're going to put one back here for it as well. Okay, trim them babies up. You don't want any of these wire ties really tight. So now we're all set back up here. We're not. We got to get our little taillight wire situated. We want to bring it out right here, right there. Put one here at the very end. Okay. We're going to put our body back on. But the gauge here has a brass, which is your positive, and a silver, which is the negative. The wires are gold, which is positive, and the black is negative. Pin right here in the body, and a rubber right here in the frame. So you don't want to get that, you don't want to get it up there and push it over. You want to push it all the way to the body, set your body out, and then push down on it. That'll set it in there. We'll grease, hook our taillight wire up. Let that wire go up inside there so it's tucked up in there. Put your 4 screws back in. Seat back on. The yellow wire goes on the gold terminal. The black wire goes on the silver terminal. Now our gauge wires are hooked up. Got everything tailored up under there nice. Let's check it out and see what we got. And on, our gauge come on. Oh yeah, 100% battery still. Lights are working. Tail light. Brake light. Brake light. And she's a runner.